Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the Agriculture and Aquaculture Committee meeting on April 2nd, 2026. We have two bills, and I think I'm going to start with Senate Bill 314 to get us warmed up. And this appears to be a relatively simple bill that limits liability for people who donate pet food and allows the Department of Agriculture to set up procedures and regulations around that. So Kristen, you want to take us through it?
Sure. Do you want to go through? I mean, we could go through the bill if that's helpful, but I mean, it just extends civil liability protections that exist for human food donation to pet. I think it might go beyond food because it's pet items is a defined term.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want the bill to come up or if there's any questions about a particular provision.
Let's see. Question? Yes, we have questions. I don't know whose hand was up first, so I'll call on Delegate Baylor.
I was going to move the bill, so I don't know if people have questions.
Okay, Delegate Lewis?
I was going to ask if there was unfavorable testimony, but in the time it took Delegate Baylor to say that, I looked it up, and there was one concerned citizen who did not submit written testimony. So
Yeah.
I'd be willing to second the bill.
Thank you. Delegate Jacobs.
Just for curiosity, Kristen, how is this the same as food that's donated? Like,
It's modeled after that law.
what's that?
It's modeled after the food donation law.
Yeah, that's what my question was. So I'm good.
Delegate Foley. Delegate Foley.
Yeah, I think I'm good with the bill, but I do have a question because I haven't really read the bill and I should have, but other pet items, is that like treats or are we talking about non-food items? What is that without looking? I mean, I'm trying to look at the bill, but then
Well, it says pet supplies. So, I have donated dog food bowls. I've donated dog clothing. There are things that people give away that are related to pets.
yeah. The reason oh, here it apparently fit
Pet
tangible
item
pet supply. Yeah.
means any apparently fit tangible
Yeah.
pet supply that meets all quality and labeling standards. So I think that would extend to, tack for a horse or what have you.
Okay.
While you read, can I call on Delegate Jacobs?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just being weird.
Yeah,
Quite all right. Delegate
so
Jacobs.
I was going to say I've donated plenty of harnesses from my Labradors over the years. You always buy one you think's going to make them be calmer than the other, and
Oh,
so
yes.
I had a pretty good collection. I took them all to the Humane Society, and uh, you know, I certainly wouldn't want to have any liability issues with that, and I don't think I would have, but I can understand that being included.
Absolutely. Me too. I had the fantasy that I was going to run with my dog. So I got one of those running leashes that
Yeah.
went to the Humane Society quickly.
All right. Well, I'll second Dylan's motion.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand and or say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
I'm gonna
opposed?
abstain because I missed the beginning of the discussion.
That is fine. We still have a quorum. Okay, the bill passes. Thank you very much. And now we are going to move on to Senate Bill 423, which is a pretty heavily amended version of House Bill 666, the Bonnie Cullison bill that we did discuss in this committee that deals with animal testing. So I'm going to ask Kristen to take us through this, but just big picture medicine, i.e. pharma, was taken out of this bill completely. So that is a big change. And Kristen, do you want to help us get through?
Yeah, and I think this one lends itself better to pull up on screen just how it's organized and go through the different components of the bill. So I'll get that.
I think that's a good idea.
We can go back to the defined terms, and I'll talk about the substantive provisions first. So we have section 15-102, which applies to both research and testing facilities. And maybe actually we'll start with the definition for research facility. So the research facility means any facility in the state that uses live vertebrate animals for research, education, or experimentation. And it doesn't apply to facilities that are providing beneficial services to an animal like spaying or neutering. And the testing facilities is where there's a carve out for the medical testing. It's a public or private partnership, organization, or other entity in the state that uses live vertebrate animals for the testing of chemical substances, ingredients, products, or product formulations. The Senate did take out language that would have applied testing to drugs and vaccines. That's out of the bill. Similarly, this would not apply to a facility that's providing beneficial services like spay or neuter, and it does not apply to schools or an institution of higher education. So the first section that I had pulled up applies to both testing facilities and research facilities, and that relates to, oh, I went by it pretty quickly, relates to prohibitions on devocalization of animals. The facilities are prohibited from performing devocalization surgery, and they would also be prohibited from using using a dog or cat that has undergone a devocalization surgery. There's also a euthanasia standard placed in this part of the bill, where euthanasia would be performed under the most current American AVMA guidelines for euthanasia. We talked about a similar provision on the cross file a few weeks ago. For section 15-103, this is the alternative testing requirement that's applying to specifically to testing facilities. Medical research is excluded from this portion of the bill. So basically, testing facilities would be required to use approved alternative test methods when they're available, when either the federal agency that oversees, has the regulatory authority, has, says there's an alternative method that's available, or they've issued some sort of waiver. The alternative testing, there's a definition of that too. That type of testing has to be produce results that would be equivalent to or even better than the testing results from a more traditional method. And so there's current law requirements that relate to the adoption of dogs and cats that are used and researched. And so those current law provisions are being, conforming changes are being made to the definitions, or not the definitions, but it's applying to the current law requirements to both testing facilities and research facilities as defined under this bill. And finally, there is reporting requirements. The first part of reporting requirements apply just to the testing facilities, where they would have to report back to MDA on the number of animals, the number of dogs or cats released to animal rescue organizations, the type and number of alternative test methods and traditional animal test methods used, the number of traditional animal test method waivers used, and the purpose of any tests conducted using alternative test methods or traditional animal test methods. There's a section that would require research facilities to report back these would be the research facilities that use or keep dogs or cats, would report back on the number of dogs or cats released to animal rescue organizations under current law, the names of the animal rescue organizations to which the dogs or cats were released. And then the Secretary of Agriculture would be required to prepare an annual report that aggregates this information in an anonymized manner. In the report, it would not be subject to a public information request. And then finally, there's penalty provisions that came over in the bill as introduced that would apply to violations under the bill, the new requirements under the bill, as well as to existing law requirements relating to the adoption of dogs and cats used by facilities.
Okay, so
Thank you. So there is a lot here. Delegate Foley.
You, Madam Chair. I was trying to look at, the Humane Society sent me some correspondence on this just before our meeting, and they said, by the way, they still support the bill with the amendments. But did I hear somebody say that pharmaceuticals had been taken out of the bill? Did you say that, Kristen?
Yes.
Right. Testing on drugs and vaccines are out of the bill.
Are out of the bill. So that means that they can basically do what they want to animals for those tests. Is that right?
I mean, right. Nothing would change with the however they conduct those tests now.
And that was not in the House bill?
So the House bill would have had exempted biomedical research, but there was inclusion though of certain testing, I think, with drugs and vaccines. I don't think that was amended out.
Okay. And one final question, if we know, is the House sponsor okay with these amendments?
I don't think she's over the moon, but yes, she has said that she is okay with them.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you again. So I have a number of questions, Kristen. First of all, I know the Maryland Veterinary Medical Association offered amendments. Are all their amendments in this
So
this bill, or some of them, or?
So I think the answer is some, because they did submit written testimony on the bill, and let's go to page 8. They had a suggestion on the reporting of information. So by testing facilities. So this would be on page 8, lines 23 and 24. The reference to the reporting on species of animals. They request that be replaced with animals as defined by the Animal Welfare Act. That way, they just wanted to ensure that there would be consistency and clarity between what's currently, how they're currently regulated and report information.
Okay. And I know during the hearing, and even during our discussion with 666, there was discussion about these reports lining up so they weren't creating different timelines.
Yes, and they wanted that to be tied to the fiscal year, how they currently report the information, and that amendment was adopted in the Senate bill.
Right, thank you. So my last question, I think, there was testimony, unfavorable testimony from Right to Life, and they're concerned with human embryo testing or aborted embryonic issues. Is any of that in this bill?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Guyton, I saw you had your hand up. Did you get your question answered? Okay. Wonderful. Any further thoughts, discussion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Thank
Second.
you. Do I hear a second? All in favor, raise your hand and/or say aye.
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 Great. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the bill passes. Thank you very much. And that is the end of our business for the day. So have a lovely evening, and we are adjourned.
thank you.
very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.